Time travel in games is no new mechanic, with it being used to hop between changing worlds and revealing how simple choices in the past can make a big impact in the future. But what if time travel was weaponized with a flick of the wrist? This game was recommended by a friend, and I'm very glad I gave it a go. Developed by Raven Software and published by Activision, Singularity was released in 2010 and is an FPS with light horror elements. The main storyline is that of Captain Renko, who crash lands on a strange island held by the Soviet Union. He experiences a strange flash and is suddenly taken back to 1955, when a mysterious but devastating accident occurred on the island. This was caused by a new element called E99, and it's also what enables the use of time manipulation. He manages to save a scientist from a burning building, but realizes this has changed history. The scientist Renko saved is named Demichev, and he becomes a cruel and ruthless dictator. Another scientist called Borisov created a time manipulation device, or TMD, a wrist-mounted gadget that can age or restore items, people, or environments. A resistance group called Mir-12 finds a notebook stating that Renko can save the world from this horrific fate. So they send someone called Catherine to find him. After destroying Demichev's research center with an E99 bomb that Renko retrieved from the past, it turns out it made no difference to the future. Demichev simply rebuilt and carried on his reign. Borisov realizes Renko saving Demichev from the burning building was the key moment they had to stop in order to change the future. Confused? I was too after writing all that out, but I promise it will make sense. Oh, and hit like and subscribe for more OK Gaming. This is pretty standard FPS fare, until we get the TMD. This mechanic really made the game memorable, and more fun than I anticipated. We use L2 to age or restore items, or as an aging attack on enemies. And R2 will fire an energy blast. We can also briefly pause time, drag items from the past, pick up and move objects, and even open rifts to explore certain areas in 1955.
Locate a gas mask and evacuate the facility immediately. This is not a...
The first thing I thought, and many people might notice, is how similar to the BioShock series this all feels. Superhuman powers unleashed through a player's hands, a dystopian environment where something catastrophic happened, resulting in mutated humans. This doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but I think Singularity was left in the shadow of BioShock 2, which was released the same year. The use of rifts might make people immediately think of BioShock Infinite, but that was released in 2013, and by then I think Singularity had sadly already been forgotten. I also felt elements of Dishonored in the level design and atmosphere, and Half-Life styled environmental puzzles to solve in certain areas. Strange mix, but it works. The weapons we get to use range from bog standard to awesome, with forgettable ones in between. You have your pistol, auto rifle, shotgun, sniper rifle, minigun, a type of grenade launcher, a spike gun, and finally my absolute favourite, the Seeker. This was a special item in the game and was only available in certain areas, and for good reason. If you looked down the sight and then fired, you had control of the bullet, which meant you could turn it around corners to hit enemies or just to correct your aim if it was a little off. Twing twang, anyone? This gun uses E99 as ammo, so when we get to use it, it feels like a treat. The TMD ability to grab things and throw them back was something I didn't think I would have so much fun with. You can catch missiles, grenades, and explosive barrels, then throw them back at whoever launched them. Then there's the soldiers with shields. In other games you have to get behind them or use a special strong attack, but here, just grab their shield and smack them with it. There are also augmentation machines which allow us to use E99 tech as currency to buy ability upgrades. And TMD upgrade machines that level up the device passively after certain story points. There was also a multiplayer, but I didn't explore that as I didn't think the servers would still be up, and I had no one to play with. Now, to many people's disappointment, I'm a gamer who plays on easy. Yes, I know. Banish me to the realm of not a real gamer. I just really like my games to be fun and not give me an aneurysm when I get to a tough enemy. Anywho, aside from the combat difficulty being nerfed, it was fairly easy to get into the game and figure out puzzles, following the fairly linear levels and the story without getting too confused. I thought the addition of the TMD would throw in a novelty aspect that I wouldn't use too much, as it would be another thing to keep in mind. But I was using it more often than the other weapons in the end, and having fun doing it. For a 13-year-old game, this looked really good. It still holds up today, even with the dumb AI.
Creature smashed it like a tin can. I will have to walk to the docks. Damn you, Temujin. All this death and destruction is your fault.
The main character designs were very detailed, and their model movements and behavior was fluid and natural. It could easily pass as an early PS4 game with the amount of atmosphere in the environments and attention to detail. I finished this game in a little under 7 hours, which was quite common for PS3 games that also had multiplayer. It was just right though. If it was any longer, it would have dragged and added confusing storyline aspects that probably didn't need to be there. Because of the multiple endings and the game forcing one save file, you're sort of inclined to replay this title. I think after experiencing the story and knowing certain plot points, going through it again on a harder difficulty or just to see the other endings was tempting. Navigating through this dystopian nightmare of an island is actually fairly easy. You're given environmental signposts like blocked hallways or debris blocking a path, so you just kind of follow where the game is leading you. You don't need a map or compass pointing you in a certain direction, which is a classic example of show, don't tell. Something I love in games: you get rewarded for exploring. I'm a loot monster. When I was playing the first Borderlands with a friend way back, he would call me Del Boy because I was always looting and selling. So if a game allows me to wander around, then gives me loot for doing it, you bet your backside I'm gonna spend most of my time dumpster diving. At one point, Renko has to escape while his hands are bound, and all he has is a voice over his radio giving sporadic directions.
Run, Renko! Head straight for the doorway!
I really hate when a game puts you under pressure to run away, but doesn't have an obvious route. Singularity is the complete opposite. Every door I was supposed to run through was right in front of me, and when it wasn't, Catherine would yell, "Go left" or "Go right," so I didn't get stuck or confused. If only every game had this design, it would have saved me so many headaches.
Faster! Turn left! They're right behind you! Quickly, down the stairs! Nathaniel Renko. My God, you're here.
The music adds an ominous undertone to certain areas, using the bare minimum to relay the isolation we have when exploring.
If anyone should find this recording, please. Our children are hiding in a room at the top of these stairs. They only have a limited amount of food and water and won't be able to last for much longer. Please. They're so scared.
When we come across enemies, the music picks up and becomes dramatic, without overdoing it. This creates suspense and almost panic as we try to defeat enemies, but never know how many there'll be. This, coupled with a few jump scares, is really effective and doesn't feel cheap or cliché. The voice acting was really good too, but I did feel like Catherine's voice actor was putting on a weird English accent and overdid it on some words.
One of the lead scientists on the Singularity project built a hidden vault. You must find it. Go through there. Here, two-way communicator with GPS. Now go!
Oh, and this is a game from 2010. So who else would be voicing a generic character that sounds familiar and seems to suit any style? Why, Nolan North, of course.
I'm gonna open the door! I'll take left, you take right! Ready? 1, 2, 3! Open fire! Damn, is it good to see you, Renko. If you hadn't come along, I'd be dead. Alright, we're supposed to meet up with SNR yesterday. Let's move on.
I was concerned when I learned that there was time travel in this game, but it really wasn't too hard to follow. They limited time jumping to 1955 and 2010, with certain areas in the game being flashes of the past, and others being full-on visits. There are rifts we can open with the TMD, but there are only a handful, so it doesn't get too overused. The exploration in the game feels so open, even though it's very linear. We can move through the houses, school, and streets, interacting with certain items, reading notes, and listening to reel-to-reels to uncover the horrors that occurred here. This, along with the ghosts of the past, is really effective. It all really sets the mood of the game, making us want to know how things turned out this way, as well as see where the game will take us with the story. At the end of the game, there was some revelations about the beginning that I totally missed, and had to watch my footage to catch it. In the fire, everyone is shouting in Russian, except for one man. He gets cut off as the ceiling falls in on him, but he knows our name, and he tries to tell us something about Demichev.
Renko, stop! Don't let Demichev...
We place the scientist on the floor, in front of the Stalin statue.
Demichev, what happened? What did you do? What did I do? Nothing. He almost died in there. Fortunately, he saved me.
Then, when we flash back to the present, Demichev's name and likeness adorn the pedestal. This short section turns out to be super important, but it's so brief in appearance the player might only take notice of the name change on the plaque. There is now an underlying feeling throughout the game that Demichev was more than just another scientist, and saving him may have resulted in the catastrophe we see in the present. When Catherine finds us, she tells us our name was written in a journal her organization found, and only we can change the future. No one knows how Renko's name got into the book, and it's another detail players may brush off. We're told to find Barisov, who worked with Demichev on E99 devices that can manipulate time.
We did it! Congratulations, Dr. Barisov. Incredible. I never would have thought it possible. Thank you, Dr. Demichev. Hopefully the DMD can be used to help the world.
In the past, Demichev shoots Barisov, which we need to prevent in order to stop Demichev taking over both the E99 experiments and the world. Throughout the game, we see writing on walls telling us not to trust him or her, constantly getting us to feel suspicious of what we're doing and who these people really are. Turns out we're not being betrayed by Barisov or Catherine, but the graffiti was written by us. I had to read up on this because it was so overlooked in the game, but Renko has been here before and tried to change the course of history. He's stuck in a time loop. All the scribbles were versions of him that failed. Super vague, not all the messages make sense, and it wasn't actually said out loud that Renko had written anything. Barisov tells us we need to get an E99 bomb and use it to destroy Demichev's research facility, which will prevent him from weaponizing the element. We go through time, find the only bomb, and charge it. Then use it to blow up the facility.
There's someone in the chamber. That's impossible. Oh my god, you're right. Quick, open the doors. We have to get him out of there. No, stop. He's got a bomb. An E99 bomb. Everyone out. Get out of here now.
When we return to the present, nothing has changed. And it seems that wasn't the point in time that was relevant to Demichev's rule. At first I thought this was a gotcha moment where the game would force us to backtrack or carry on doing exactly the same things we were doing, but thankfully it was a setup for a story twist, which I always enjoy.
He's what you changed, and he's what you have to change back. You cannot let Demichev live.
There are 3 main endings to this game. I chose to go back in time and have Renko shoot himself in order to stop him saving Demichev from the fire. Another ending sees the player shooting Borisov and ruling the world alongside Demichev. The third is shooting both of them and ruling the world alone using the TMD and creating a new dystopia. A hidden 4th ending is not shooting anyone, and Demichev grabs the gun instead. Something I haven't seen for a long time is a post-credits cutscene. We see a wounded Catherine transported back to 1955, and she stumbles into the facility to try and find the journal was shown in the beginning. She grabs a pen and starts writing something. It's here where we realize she was the one who named Renko as the one who could save the world, and gave detailed dates and information. I started wondering about how this would have worked with the whole time travel thing, and if her actions would be relevant because they relied on Renko saving Borisov, and she only got dragged back in time because of the E99 bomb which Renko had. I decided to stop thinking so hard and had a cookie instead. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. The concept was eerie but not too horror focused. The TMD was great fun to use, as was the Seeker. The characters were seen as either good or bad, with no grey area or moral issues to really think about, which I thought was a good thing. The weapons were standard FPS style, so nothing to really get excited about, but combat was satisfying and fun. I liked the little environmental puzzles sprinkled in too, as it slowed down the game after a fight or escape. It was a nice change from just running around. Using rifts to allow us to grab an item from the past, or restoring an item to open doors, was a clever use of the main mechanic too. If you still have a PS3 or Xbox 360, I highly recommend you play this game. It's also available on Steam, and in my opinion, completely worth your time. This was fun. Let's do it again sometime. And if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like down below.